Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Pictures on My Mind. I'm very lucky to be joined by an incredible photographer, Al Brydon, who I've got to say is one of my favorite landscape photographers of like now and has been for some time. Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
So we're going to let Al take over. We're going to talk about some of his work from some of his projects. And yeah, my main reason I'm wanting to chat, Al, is that there's so many landscape photographers out there, particularly who seem very popular on the social media and the YouTube, and their work is like so pedestrian, chocolate box. It's like, seriously, anyone could have done it. Anyone could have taken the tripod up. All they had was just they got there, and that's it. And I always hate that kind of photography for me personally, because it feels like the adventure travel photographer. Like it's only a good landscape because they got there. Whereas, man, you're somewhere else, man. I think you've got something very magical and uncanny. Like when you're somewhere, like it's Owl Vision. And I think you've graduated to kind of that next level of photographer where everywhere you go, there you are, man. And you're seeing the world in this wonderful way. So yeah, please.
That's sweet of you, Ed. That's really kind.
All true, all true. So tell us
if
about
I had
this.
you sort of doing this every day, 24 hours, I'd be unstoppable. Yeah.
This is recorded, man. You can just play this back.
I could just go back to it. And,
dude, you can make this this could be your ringtone. Like,
yeah, it could be. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. So look, tell us about this incredible image. It's amazing.
I mean, to landscape, I never really think of myself as a sort of landscape photographer, really. I mean, it's such a loaded term. I always just prefer photographer because, you know, I make work outdoors. So perhaps an outdoor photographer. I don't know. I make work where I want to be. You know, I like being places, and then the work kind of happens quite naturally, or it doesn't. You know, and 99% of the time I like to be outside. But by the by, you know, I mean this was a series of work I made. It was during lockdown. You know, I was never going to sort of photograph people through windows or masks on the floor or whatever. You know, I just couldn't do that. So on the days or the times we were allowed out, I ventured out purposely into sort of quite obscure places where I assumed not a lot of people would be, because suddenly people were the enemy, you know, and all we had to keep as far apart from each other. Well, everyone remembers, you know. So outside, you know, COVID made outside seem much safer than inside suddenly was, you know. So people wanted to be outside. It's kind of like, you know, your home became like the dangerous place, and outside became this sorcery spun place of fresh air and freedom. And I noticed that, you know, a lot of people started going, you know, that perhaps wouldn't normally go outside, started doing so. But I specifically went to sort of places, you know, on days when I assumed there'd be less people about, and that was primarily the reason that I wanted just being outside, just being able to make the work. And it wasn't really a conscious decision. I just started to play like all the bodies of work I've done over the years. It's just playing and being there and making things until something does or doesn't start to click. I mean, looking back at these photographs now, it's kind of clear to me in that state of confusion and that bizarre point in all our lives. I mean, it's chaotic, it's dark, it's worrisome, and I was looking for solitude as well. Let me just scroll past this one, and
I took over and made it full screen for a moment. I hope you don't mind.
No, that's cool. I can cope with that. So this is all imagery from that particular time. There was no, as I was making it, like I said, like all bodies of work I make. It's just made at the time. I try not to sort of think about it too much. I always think, you know, the sort of editor kills the creator a little bit. So it's make the work, and then I can think about why I've done it afterwards. It never starts out with a grandiose plan of I want to go and do this, so I, you know, go and make a body of work with a goal in mind. It's always quite random, quite reactive. just go out and do it. And then, like I said, if something happens because of it, that's wonderful. But if it doesn't, then, I have a ton of projects behind me, or failed series that just didn't work for whatever reason. But for whatever reason, this one sort of really resonated with me. It's quite it's by far, I would say, that one of the least popular bodies of work I've made. But I think
When you say popular, what do you mean on social
in
media?
terms of, oh no, no, we're not Instagram per se. I think people think Instagram's a bad sort of barometer for popularity, or good, shall I say, good work. I really, really like this body of work, and
I like it too. So
yeah,
who are these
yeah, no,
people,
well,
Al?
you and
Who are
me
these
both.
people not liking it? Let's get them.
I don't know. Well, I mean, let's just say the galleries aren't knocking on my door for
Well,
it.
yeah, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
We'll
that
save,
is
we'll
an
save that
interest
for the channel members video that we'll do when this is wrapped. Okay.
There was what, to be fair, one gallery. There was some talk about doing something, but it just didn't happen, for whatever reason. So, by the by. But I mean, I don't really go into the sort of technical aspects of what I do, but people ask me how these swooshes.
Well,
Let's
I
call them
kind of covered
swooshes.
that in my Christmas video 2 Christmases ago, because I did an effect like this in New York back in 2002 on Christmas Day.
Oh
And it's
right,
all
yeah,
to do, we won't spoil it, people can work it out, but it's all to do with where you're setting your flash, either the first or second
yeah.
person, right?
It's just
So there
shutter
you,
drag, and then
there you go.
you fire the flash. It's a slightly slow shutter speed, and then kaboom. And like, these were, I was using quite a basic old digital camera to make the work with. So I sort of cranked up the ISO, and it gave this wonderful grainy, granular distortion and effect to it.
But you cropped it almost 6:7. Looks a bit 5:4,
Yeah,
6:7.
5.4, whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it. Yeah, yeah. It just made sense to me, and it was
Yeah.
because the world was so compacted, and I wanted to sort of narrow that. I wanted to narrow the pictures down to make them more constricted. To me, we feel a little more claustrophobic in a way.
And for me, man, I spent a whole career shooting square medium format. So when I made the jump to digital, and it was like the frame was like that, it always blew my mind. I was like,
yeah,
this feels so weird. It's too long.
It seems far too long, far too long. But yeah, that was primarily the reasoning behind this body. I mean, I could go into it, but so a lot of them were done at night. A lot of them were done at stormy weather, bleak, dark times, because it was a bleak, dark time. And this is I never want to talk about this as my sort of COVID project because it is, but no one wants to. I think we just want to forget it. And in a way, I suppose the reasoning for the making the work in the first place, more and more reasons occur to me as the time has elapsed between making the images and and present day.
No, I think
So
that's totally a legitimate thing, and that's a very real
yeah,
thing.
of
Like
course it is.
my last book I put out, Welcome to Dungeness, like when I was
Yeah.
making it, my dad had not long died. I didn't really have many family at all. It was mostly going looking after my mum, and I had a girlfriend in London, and that was kind of it for family. So suddenly I found myself hanging out with all these people with young kids, and it was like it was my surrogate family, man. And like at the time I didn't realize, but obviously that's why I was drew to them, because I'd gone from losing my family essentially to wanting to feel that feeling again by being with all these kids, so and parents, and just units and hanging out and having barbecues and playing football. It felt like something, but I didn't know that. I didn't acknowledge that consciously at the time.
Well,
In the same way, this
no.
work, we might have made it in COVID, but it's imbued with power. It's imbued with, like, for me, it's very arcane, like just that skull on the thing. There's very sort of totemic, iconic, I thought very kind of all quite Celt or whatever, kind of mysterious. Like I could imagine some of these images out of some like fantasy novel. Do you know what I mean? Like they have that feeling. It's like, adventure, but then it's adventure in the everyday. Like, look at that, man. Like, come on, Al. Come on.
You do, man.
It's amazing. I feel like something's about, I look at that and it feels like a still for like a fantasy film, and like something's about to walk out, or a horror film, like the witch is going to walk out of that point in the darkness. It's fantastic, man.
Man, I've always felt really comfortable in woods at dusk or at night. They're just, people freak me out, man. There's no
Hey,
one there. I'm
did
happy.
you grow up near woods when you were a kid?
So say again.
Did you grow up near woods when you were a kid?
I mean, not especially.
Right, check it out, man. I did, but I also grew up by the beach, and I didn't learn to
Yeah,
swim till I was like 11 because my family would always take us to the beach every day of the summer. I hated the beach. I just wanted to
yeah,
sit and read my books. And yet I got to about 8 or 9, and I just started going to the woods around army barracks on my own. And I'd
yeah,
spend all day in the woods. Dude, I would climb massive trees on my own and
yeah,
just be a weird kid up a tree. I can't imagine if I went to the woods now and there was some like 9-year-old just stood up a giant tree, just
yeah, yeah,
quietly sat there like a
yeah,
maniac. But yeah, I love the woods as well, man. Like there's
yeah,
something
yeah.
very
Well, the
interesting.
peaceful. I mean, it just at the very essence of it, at the very basic level, it's kind of where we're meant to be. I always think it's at least where I'm at my happiest. Sort of people ask why do you take pictures of trees so much? It's just because I like trees. I like being there. I'm a product of my the work's the product of my environment. If I lived in a really dense, I mean, I live in a city, but if I lived I don't photograph in the city very often. However, that's sort of changing as of late. Um, but I like to be outside, and I remember standing there. I remember making this,
Cool.
remember
Yeah.
making this work,
Yeah.
and you know, I think your mind needs nourishment, and it quite naturally sort of kicks you up the arse to go to the places where your mind will be most nourished. We're these I remember standing in these places, and I was 1,000 miles away from the next news bulletin about how many people had died, or what the next lockdown was might be like, or so forth and so forth.
Mm.
And of course, like everyone else, I was really scared about getting this disease, and the psychological fallout from that period of time. Well, it's I'm trying to think. Obviously, there were positives that came from it, but there was a hell of a lot of negatives as well.
So just a quick thing, you said that you said metaphorically 1,000 miles away from the TV, whatever. Just a quick question: how far was this from where you live? So this isn't near you,
Um, I
or
don't
is it
know,
near you?
maybe a 40-minute drive, then
Yeah.
maybe a hour and a half walk.
Because I've got someone who asked you in the members question about myself, because I don't know if you know, I am on an Arthurian quest, and part of it
You,
is a bit of landscape, and I'm really struggling because I get very little time.
yeah,
And on days when I've managed to get my wife's not working or whatever, like I just have to pick that day weeks in advance. And then
yeah,
some
yeah,
days the
sure.
weather's, I mean, obviously you like the weather being shit, but like for me sometimes, man, it's like, I'm at the mercy of the elements. And that's something that's,
Yeah,
been the first for me. But anyway, we'll chat about that in the members video after. I don't
sure,
want to take
sure, yeah.
anyone's, they just want to hear you, baby. They just want to hear you. So let's keep going.
I don't know
Now
why.
this feels quite different. We're into a different territory now.
Good and proper. Well, this was. I think this is my last. I think this was from my last book. I think it was my last book. I think so. Um, yeah, this is a body work called "The Code for Flowers: The Last Star to Shine." Again, this was a little bit of escapism for me. I was looking after a family member who was sadly dying of cancer, and a lot of this work was primarily, I suppose, it wasn't just that, but it was primarily dealing with that. Again, quite a dark body of work, and also trying to sort of post, if you can say post COVID, it was trying to trying to reintegrate into this new world that had post COVID world, which I just didn't understand particularly. And again, it's this escapism, this trying to get out into the wilderness and just decompress and allow these sort of feelings and allow this stress or these whatever to sort of be dissipate while sort of making these images, and you sort of put yourself into the images. I always sort of see people's photographs, even if they're not self-portraits, as sort of self-portraits. You're putting people put themselves into it, and then you kind of photograph the rebound, as it were. I mean, some of these were made in Scotland as well. I was visiting a good friend
Is
of
that
mine.
why I
Ian.
thought you were Scottish for like all
Could
my
be,
life?
could be.
I did. For those
Must be
listening,
my.
I was
Yeah,
convinced. I was convinced.
I must look Scottish. I don't know, mate. But yeah, so it was. There was a myriad of reasons again, like for making the work. And at the time, again, I didn't really know why I was doing it. I was just photographing and photographing and photographing, and then produced this somehow produced this body of work. And it was at about I think about 2/3 of the way through, the person we were sort of looking after sadly passed. And yeah, but at least I was lucky enough to make it into a book with Another Place Press, and it sold out, and
Yeah,
I was very joyous about that.
Speaking of selling out, so obviously, what do you currently still have available? Because I'll drop links in the video
I
for
don't
people to
think
pick
I've
them
got
up.
anything
You've got
available at the
nothing.
moment.
Jeez, man, get something available, Al. Just put out some zines, man. It's so
I
easy.
did.
I'm throwing it. I'm doing it yourself. Look, I've got zines everywhere.
I did. I put one out recently.
Do it.
When did
Sell
I
it.
put it
And that
out?
sold out as well.
Yeah, last year.
Well, look, if anyone's wanting to buy Al's zines and can't, you can buy mine.
I'll
get Al to sign them. I mean,
no, they'll go. It wasn't a massive print run for the zine. It was. I can't remember how many it was, but yeah, but they do tend to sell quite well. Which I've got a nice group of people who were really, really supportive, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
Much deserved, Al. Much deserved.
Thank you. That's
right. Look,
there's some really nice, some really fantastic people out there who generally seem to want to see me keep going. so which is nice, which is really, really nice. I can't help but love them for it, But this was it wasn't. I mean, like I say, it wasn't just. It was. I can't remember what the blooming zine was called. No Man's Land. It was a series of. There's no point me describing it. Go on the website and have a look.
Yeah, go on the website. So that's it. We're going to stop here. Bang. Regular YouTube viewers, you're done. I'm cutting you off. Whoom. If you want to keep listening to Al's wonderful words of wisdom and my channel member questions that my channel members are throwing to Al, become a member. It's cheap as chips. It's literally like buying me a pint at Wetherspoons a month. You could do that, right? Anyway, whatevs. But Al, thank you so much for coming on. Incredible work, incredible work. And yeah, goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.